I see. Throw me off. All right. Good evening. Welcome to council. We are going to call meeting to order, and first item would be adoption of the agenda. Second. On adoption, all in favor? Motion's carried. Two delegations this evening. First of all, we have Don Lupton regarding Claudia Estates. So Don, I assume you're up there somewhere, and Councilor Swift, yes.
Kathleen, I'm going to declare a conflict of interest due to personal relationship.
Thank you. Just let Councilor Swift keep the room, and then you can proceed. All right, you have the floor. You have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Is there a microphone?
It's right above you.
Oh, okay. Because I'm sorry to have to put you through enduring my terrible voice tonight, but I'll do my best to get through this. A little bit nervous, not so used to public speaking, unlike my sister. Here we go. Mr. Mayor, Council, staff, and members of the public, my name is Dawn Lupton, and Jay Rosano and I have plans to build our home on Lot 14 of Claudia Estates. We're here this evening to convey our very strong opposition to the application to subdivide lots 1153 and 1167 Terra Road. Claudia residents are here, along with concerned neighbors who live in the immediate area. And we believe, as I'm sure a lot of you do too, that the entire Point Homes area is a very unique part of our world. And the town of Comox confirmed this belief by designating the entire Claudia neighborhood a wildlife corridor under their official community plan. And you can see that on the map up there. At the end of the runway is Claudia Estates, the red at the end of the runway. Claudia was marketed as an exclusive 17-lot rural waterfront community. And it took 7 years, apparently, 7 years for the town of Comox and this developer to come to a final agreement for the subdivision in its present form. It was the rural nature of Claudia that we, and many of us, invested in. If we had wanted higher densification, we would have bought into a higher density area of Comox. We provided a copy of the marketing description taken from the sales website, which I think will come up on your screen, and I think you'll have on your iPads. The marketing description we feel is really important. It's what we thought we bought into, and we now feel a real sense of betrayal. And we really feel that this application is very unfair to the people who live there. We've also provided a copy of a Claudia neighborhood map outlining the special features of this development. So if we could have the Claudia neighborhood map up, that would be great. It should be
Just one now.
yeah, that's there are wildlife corridors along the bank. So this is the ocean here, and the ocean, the waterfront lots are here, the 5 larger lots at the back, and this is a wildlife corridor going all the way along the back, or the bank, sorry, on the water side, and a wildlife corridor here in the forested area where there's an eagle tree. And it's important to note that around the resident eagle tree, which you can see up there, there is a quiet zone. And that quiet zone extends into and encompasses a good part of the 2 lots in question. The 2 lots up for development are in Faulkner. This map also shows in red people within our neighborhood who are not in favor of this application. After purchasing our lot, shortly after purchasing our lot, we learned of the developer's intent to subdivide. In an email to us, the developer stated, and I quote, "We are proceeding with this proposal as we are concerned about future overdevelopment on the present large lots, and we want to protect the integrity of the subdivision with single-family homes only. This statement caused us great concern, as we know that the present zoning already protects the integrity of the subdivision. We're really grateful that the town of Comox has a process for neighborhood consultation. We see on the town website that a different engineering firm is now involved with CLDA. We're not sure why that happened. Last year, upon request, we supplied McElhaney Engineering, a different engineering firm, with a petition and many letters of opposition to this application. All of the signatures and letters came from the immediate neighborhood around CLDA. It was an easy walking distance from the heart of CLDA. Every signature that you see on the petition and every letter is walking distance from the heart of CLDA, all close by. Residents are passionate. We found, when we went to around the neighborhood, we could not believe what neighbors were anxious to tell us on their doorsteps. They're passionate about this area and very knowledgeable and very vocal about its history. When we went, we had no idea there was a history. Residents clearly support the OCP, which states that lot sizes in the area are to be harmonized, averaged, with the majority of the pre-existing lots, thus maintaining the rural nature of the Whole Point Homes area. Residents told us that after the adoption of the OCP, the developers applied for the variance. That would see smaller lots along the waterfront, as you can see, and they justified this contravention of the OCP by keeping the 5 roadside lots, you can see the larger lots at the back, larger. And this was, hang on, and this included the 2 lots in question. You can see the 5 lots at the back all larger. And in doing that, they felt they stayed within the average lot size for the area, even though it was fudged a little bit. The town and the developer came to an agreement, and the agreement was 17 lots with the densification along the waterfront, as you see, and resulting with the larger lots at the back. And that was the agreement. This is what the developers signed and agreed to, and it's what the staff report indicates. We heard on the doorsteps residents over and over, and believe me, if the map was larger, it would be a sea of red. That residents believe that the 2 lots in question residents over and over stated that if approved, this would open the floodgates for further development in the Point Homes area. They were very, very concerned about that, and they told us. And the last thing that residents made a point to tell us was they believe that the 2 lots in question are very marketable. And in fact, I can tell you 3 out of the 5 have already been sold. All 3 of the red lots, large lots, have been sold, and 2 of them already have homes on them. Ours will be the 3rd one, which we have plans to build, hopefully, if all goes well. In closing, we want to thank all those who welcomed us on their doorstep. So many people signed the petition, wrote letters, and many of whom are here this evening. For those of us who invested in this development and call it home, or soon to call it home, the changes proposed are very unfair, we feel. Not only would we see the rural nature of the neighborhood diminish, but our property values as well. The Point Homes area is so special to everyone in Comox, not just residents who live in the CLDA Estates. And actually, someone was, when we walked today, was there on the Simon Crescent taking a picture of the eagle tree. This application completely contravenes the intent of the OCP. We believe residents and neighbors in close proximity have clearly stated their opposition to the application. And they did it many years ago through the lengthy OCP process, which we understand had a consultant, lots of public meetings. And they did it about in less than a year ago, when we had to do the neighborhood consultation as mandated by the town of Comox. They were clear then that they didn't want this. And now here we are again tonight, stating our opposition once again. We thank the town of Comox for respecting the rural nature of our neighborhood and Point Homes in their OCP. And we really feel you got it right the first time. And we sincerely hope that this application goes no further than this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Dawn, in case there's any questions from
Oh.
council, you should maybe just wait a second. Any questions for the delegation at this time? I don't see any, so thank you for your presentation. All right, the next delegation is Andrew Gower and Jim Owen regarding the Terra Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's wait for my presentation to be brought up.
Yes.
So while we're waiting for that, just I'm sure council's aware of this. Official community plans and zoning bylaws are a constantly shifting living document. That's why we have processes for amending and rezoning land. Land use plans evolve and change over time. If you looked at the same piece of land 100 years ago, it looked far different. There was no airport, there were only large parcels. Things have changed, and our client's proposal is simply another evolution in that process.
Is it turned on, Andrew?
Good.
So let's switch on this.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So I will talk about the application process today. Quick summary of the specialist reports. We will review the pre-application community consultation, rationale for the rezoning, and a quick summary of development permit areas. I just want to open by saying my client and I are a little surprised at the staff report we received. This is the timeline of our application process. You see that the pre-application consultation was last August and September. I was retained in November of last year. Our application was submitted in February, and up until Monday, we had no idea that staff were recommending denying even processing the application. We anticipated first and second reading, which is why I have a presentation I'm about to give. And while I admit I haven't done rezoning in the town of Comox and all the other municipalities in BC where I've done rezonings, I've never received this kind of response. I wish to respond to some items in the staff report. The first one is talk about rationalizing lot size. And this is from the 2007 Transition Committee report, which is almost a decade old. To rationalize lot size and land use according to the homogeneous land use pattern already established in a particular area. Homogeneous being a term describing something that's the same throughout, and I will demonstrate later that there's no homogeneous land use pattern in this area. I talked about the average lot size in the surrounding area, excluding the parent parcel. Well, we are now past this stage where this report was written, and there are new lots that have been developed with different lot sizes that's offering a different average parcel. And finally, saying that the subject property's distance from urban amenities and services and its proximity to the airport and coastal bluffs would not support densification. It's easy to point out that there are already many lots in the area similar to the size we proposed for smaller that have been developed. So I'm not sure that argument is. So a quick summary of the specialist reports. First, the geotechnical report, which is from the initial subdivision, certified the property is geotechnically safe. There was a geotechnical building setback established. Here. That's in the report and on the plans. That is being respected. We're nowhere near it. Some other geotechnical recommendations around stormwater and stormwater infiltration will also be respected within the subdivision. The next report being the environmental report, which had a similar series of recommendations, which I'll highlight a little later in my presentation, none of which are being contradicted by this presentation. They talk about the aquatic habitat greenway, the upland habitat greenway, the coastal bluff ecosystem, the eagle nest tree and buffer zone, and the timing of works around the eagle nest tree, and the building setback from the cliff edge, all of which are being here. This development proposal will respect. And the final specialist report in the application is the arborist report. I note that the two parcels in question do not have significant trees on them. However, the tree retention and tree replacement requirements of the town of Comox will be respected with this application. a quick summary of the pre-application community consultation conducted by McElhaney on behalf of our client last August and September. 20 properties polled at the time. 8 were in favor, 5 received no response, and 7 were not in favor. And we understand that one of the lots has since changed hands and changed to being in favor, so we're now knowing 5 and 6 from the 20 properties in the consultation area. So now as to the rationale for this rezoning application. So our current zoning is CD9, and what we're proposing is an amendment to this comprehensive development zone. Most of the requirements of the zone would not change. The biggest change, of course, is the lot size. The client is requesting a smaller lot size. And the proposed use would still maintain a significant amount of open space due to the restrictions on development on these lots. This proposal would also result in amenities to the town, including improvements along Simon. And there are sustainable development features our client is committed to implementing, including electric car parking. So the building scheme would have dedicated charging circuit and pre-marked blocks would be a component of the buildings. Sound attenuation standards for the bylaw would be followed. Our client is committed to all homes meeting the Natural Resources Canada Built Green certification, which reduces greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, our client is also committed to rainwater storage for reuse and irrigation, which will be part of the building scheme. So the public comments we received address 3 areas: environment, traffic, and increased density. If we explore the environment, you can see the development here. This is the subject parcel. This is the end of the runway. Now, the environmental features on the site are the eagle tree, and you see the buffer is not impacted at all. There's, of course, the setback from the coastal bluffs, which is, again, maintained. And then this right
Excuse
away
me,
here
if
for
you
the
guys
park,
could just keep your comments to yourself, thank you.
which will also be maintained. None of these are impacted by this development at all. In fact, the current 2 properties could have significant houses built on the mountain, and the overall built area does not change significantly. It's just 4 new lots are added. Addressing the traffic concerns, current lots front on Terra and Connemara. So Connemara receives 1 additional lot, and Simon Crescent receives 3 lots. So some traffic increase here, and then two new lots accessing the interior roads of the subdivision. So not a significant increase in traffic, especially when you compare it to the overall area. And the last one is the question of increased density. This is some analysis that's being prepared where you look at the lots over 5,000 meters squared and the lots under 5,000 meters squared. And of the 64 parcels that are highlighted, you can see 41 of them are already under 5,000 meters squared. And this doesn't count the very dense lots along Kai Bay. So the lot sizes proposed are definitely within the mix of existing lots in the area. Of course, we also analyzed the infrastructure impact, and based on our analysis, infrastructure in the area is definitely capable of handling the additional 4 lots, especially considering there would be smaller houses and could be supported. And finally, there are several development permit areas that apply. And our application has addressed all of them, including upland environmental, the bald eagle and great heron nesting sites, perching trees, development permit areas, the wildlife corridor, hazardous areas, and coach houses development permit areas. And council can read how we intend to meet all of these within the application. So that concludes our presentation of the proposal. We do hope council will consider it. I'm sure we're all aware of the recent VRD court case with the regional growth strategy. I'm sure a similar precedent will apply here. So we're hopeful that our client, my hope that my client will have a fair hearing in the public with a public hearing and due process. I will now take any questions.
Any questions, members of council at this time? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. This matter will be discussed under new business, so we'll proceed with the rest of the agenda and we'll get to this shortly. All right, so minutes of meetings. We'll get Councillor Swift back here for that. Some other things. for the minutes of the council meeting of June 1st, require a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Approval then, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Under unfinished business, we have the management report for this evening.
Move receipt.
Receipt then, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Now let's ask CAO to give us any update on item 2.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a conference call with the architect this morning and going over some revised estimates for the project. We're looking at a few more options, and we're going to have a follow-up conference call this Friday morning. I am beginning to work on a report for committee next week for council's consideration as to what some of the options we have facing us with this project. So you should have a full picture at next week's meeting.
Great. Anything else under management report?
I just had one question on that. I know we were looking at applying for some money to be able to complete the water park. Are there any delays or anything that are going to impact that?
I'm hoping not. The way that we're looking at structuring the Canada 150 application, which is on this agenda a bit later, is to create an independent project, although the two are related to a certain extent in their proximity. My intent is that it is a standalone project that can work without the other.
Any further? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Community Justice Center Critical Incident Response Protocol 2016. The recommendation that the mayor be a signatory to that revised protocol on behalf of the town of
I'll
Comox.
move that.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. We're anticipating that to happen sometime in September. Also under unfinished business, the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance membership recommendations that the town of Comox become a member of that alliance.
Move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Oh, sorry.
A question, please. Understanding that our EDS reaches far and wide to obviously promote our valley, how do the two partner? The EDS is obviously doing a lot to promote us, but how will these partner, or do they partner?
Well, they do different things. Obviously, Comox Valley Economic Development looks after the Comox Valley region. And this is a broader Vancouver Island approach, which focuses principally on the area north of Mount. And they're providing, for example, economic updates and reports and summits. I know that Stevens does participate, as does the Island Coastal Economic Trust in the summit. And I think also you heard, may have heard that the Comox Valley Airport Commission also participates in the airport. So we do similar but not the same things, and as I say, this is a slightly broader perspective of the whole island. And they not obviously focused on the broader. And they're not really tasked with carrying out any particular work plan on our behalf, but the membership of that alliance would principally provide information to its members and provide that back to the organization.
And it's a relatively small amount of money to get the information and data that we'll collect for that. I think it's $1,000.
$1,000 for a membership, and you don't have to be a member to go to the summit. For example, I've gone to them on several occasions, but I think they're looking to get as many local communities and organizations involved in the efforts.
So the duplication isn't worth
I
considering.
wouldn't see it duplicating. I think it would rather augment what we're already doing. Okay. Thank you.
You answered my question. I think, Your Worship, just so the public is aware online and here tonight, that it's $1,000 is the membership fee, and I think that the benefits from it will be forthcoming as a fair price.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Regional District Board meeting minutes for receipts.
Move receipt.
Second.
That's for the May 31st meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, under new business, first item is planning report regarding the Twisted Parkland. And staff are asking for direction to proceed with allowing the establishment of that in accordance with this report.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions of staff? Councillor Price, then?
Well, I was just going to say, I think this is a great idea, and I drove by the one that we have, which I think is the first in the valley, and people were sitting out, and it just enlivens the street. So this is even more prominent sight, and I like the arrangement. And just to clarify, so the sidewalk would have been where it's going to, where the seating is going to be, and then it's going to be built out, so the sidewalk goes by that area. Is that correct?
The schematics, the attachments, so you can show that. So if you look at attachment 2, I think that's the last one.
It's, yes, that's what it looked like.
Yes, we would extend the sidewalk where it currently terminates just south of the Twisted Dishes. It terminates in the parking space so that pedestrians would be able to walk on the asphalt, what's currently a parking space. And then Twisted Dishes would be able to use the existing sidewalk immediate at the northeast corner of their property for seating area.
And we would do the work on the sidewalk.
The only works that we would be doing would be, there is an existing drop, pedestrian drop, where the interlocking brick or the brick sidewalk ends. We would add a small ramp at the, just north of that, where the pedestrians are to go back onto the sidewalk. The planters would be provided by the applicant.
Thank you.
Councillor McGinn.
Two things. First is, I understand it might compromise a handicap parking drop-off spot there. And, yes or no?
No, there's no, it's just straight on-street parking. It's not dedicated for handicap.
Thank you. And the second thing, my understanding is that the Twisted Dishes ownership have put off the project for reasons, but as you know, council has been supportive of this initiative in the past, and we do support it, even if it's put off for a year.
Councillors.
Sorry. Thank you. I'm completely in support of these because I think they do have a lot of vibrancy and I agree. It's fun to go by and see people sitting up. But what I need some clarification on is, are these intended to be public spaces or extensions of the restaurant?
The parklet programs are intended to be public spaces that are used jointly by the restaurant and the public. So in the encroachment agreements, there is a prohibition on excluding the public from a portion of lands that are owned by the town. So for example, in the Comox Grind, while it is marketed as the Comox Grind Parklet, members of the public can at any time sit down with or without services from the grind.
Okay. So I think there is some confusion in the public's mind, and obviously mine as well, regarding that. And I'm wondering if we should consider using our own town logo for these parklets rather than the business ones. Something to think
That
about.
would be something that we could look at. One of the things that we are very concerned about is the maintenance and appearance. So the allowance for some branding, given that they're providing sort of the infrastructure, really does, especially in the Grinds case, there's really good buy-in from the business in terms of keeping it clean, making sure that even providing the umbrellas, taking them up, taking them down, weather, items like that. So it's a trade-off. Whatever council directs, we can of course incorporate into the agreements.
And I guess my concern is being driven by a concern that was brought to my attention of just keeping a fair playing field for all the restaurants in town that are already having private property and paying their taxes and so on. And I don't know if we're treating these people differently.
I don't think so. I think our policy is such that we're trying to, if you will, make the pie bigger for everyone. And so I think this helps with the downtown, more people coming down here, which should help all businesses. The rising tide raises all boats philosophy. So I haven't heard of any of those issues being raised in this Comox Grind one, and certainly not for this one. And I haven't heard of any issues that people have been banned from sitting there or barred from sitting there.
No, I don't think we could consider going there though if you weren't having coffee or something
True.
from that particular restaurant. And I'm just raising it as an issue. I think we need to keep these things in the back of our mind when we're doing these things. Sometimes
Absolutely.
we have unintended consequences. So I do support this corporate code.
And each one will be unique depending on the layout of the land and what's being requested. This one's obviously different than the one that's at Comox Grind. So I think the issue before at Comox Grind, maybe to some extent here at Twisted Dishes, that people were sitting on the sidewalk and blocking access. So now we've addressed that issue.
Why are you looking at me?
I was looking at Councilor McKinnon. But I think that was one of the major concerns. So, and we of course have businesses on the main street as well that have tables and chairs on a wider part of the sidewalk, so it's not as much of an issue. So it is a balancing act for sure. Councilor.
Yeah, I too support it. I think they're a great addition to the downtown area, and do know with the Comox Grind that it has increased. They do pay a little bit extra now in their taxes for that, so there's something going to the town. One of the things I was wondering, with the Comox Grind one, we extended that past, it was a seasonal thing, we allowed it for the winter. Is there any limitations on this one? And have we allowed this to be a yearly thing now? Or is it just, are we still on a trial basis?
Staff can speak to that.
We retain the right in the agreement to require them to be removed. Even if there is a time limit where we can require it even in the summer, should municipal needs prevail, and then there's a built-in allowance in terms of over the winter. We just chose not to exercise it last year to see how it went.
Right.
So I wouldn't propose that that section of the agreement be removed. So it would still be, if it turns to, we didn't have snow last year, so if it does turn when we have snow, there is a problem, or these facilities are being damaged, then we exercise that.
Okay.
Anything further on that? And you did hear, I think, from Councilor McKinnon earlier that this is being deferred for a year, given the time frame involved in setting this up. The owner doesn't want to proceed this year, and will hopefully proceed next year. So all those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, moving on to the zoning application for 611 Colby Road. Staff are recommending first and second reading.
I move that.
Second. That's for bylaw number 1843, this is to do with our coach house. At first and second reading, in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. A public hearing be scheduled for that, and if you okay with here, council chamber.
Move.
Second. My understanding the date tentatively for that is July 20th, subject to quorum, etc. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next item of new business, firefighter training standards and service levels. Staff have brought this forward through the fire chief. He's here tonight. Any questions, comments his way? And staff are looking for the recommendations as shown there. So,
Can you move them all at once, or do you want them one at a time?
CEO.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, I'll move number one.
Second. The council adopts the Officer Fire Commissioner's playbook with regards to firefighter training levels. So any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Second one is that council declares Comox Fire Rescue operational service level as full service as outlined in the playbook.
Move.
Second. Discussion on that? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
And move to.
Second.
That's that we amend our fire service bylaw to reflect that. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. So I take it that bylaw will come back to us. All right. Thank you, Fire Chief and staff. All right, so now we come to OCP amendment of the zoning application regarding Cascara and Connemara roads. And staff have a recommendation, but there may be questions that you have of staff before you get zoning recommendation. Thank you. So this is the introductory report from the planning department to council. And, are there any questions that you would like to address to the planner? No questions? So the motion can either be to deny the application at this stage, or I believe that at the end of this report, if you wish to proceed towards a public hearing, then that staff would be directed to proceed with the processing.
I would move the planner's recommendation.
So the planner's recommendation, as printed, just to be clear, is that OCP and rezoning applications RZ 16-2 and development permit application DP 16-3 be denied.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Go ahead. You guys are trying to see who wants to go first. So.
Point forward.
Go ahead, Councillor Price, then
It's a
McKinnon.
very thorough report, and I think that's why there wasn't any questions on it. And it is unusual. I think it was brought up earlier that generally we go to first and second and public hearing, and it is unusual that we leave it at this point. However, although anyone can apply for a rezoning or a variance, that is the right of the individual to apply, but then the process by not taking it any further is also part of the process. It was brought up about the strategic planning process, which is a totally different kettle of fish. I think it reflects that there was a lot of work done by the planner when this land initially came up for redevelopment that looked at how do you make this proposal meet the needs of the developer and meet the needs of the community. And a community plan that expressed that people did want to have a rural environment, that it's, although this area is now in Comox, visually and geographically it's still very rural. And so that compromise was made that the lots along the front of the property, which are the waterfront and obviously the most valuable and the most desirable, that they would be maximised. And in order to maximise those, there would be larger lots on the other side. So I think that was a very fair compromise, and I think that we are respecting the work that the community did with regard to the planning process, and also given that if everyone came along and said, "Wow, we don't mind our community plan being changed. This makes a lot of sense," then I think we might have looked at it differently, or we might not, because there was a lot of valuable information in that. But that certainly isn't the case, and so I do wish to follow the direction of our planner, and that's why I moved the recommendation.
Councillor McKinnon.
So I'll try not to be long-winded. I guess what council has to look at is that there's a trade-off with the OCP and honoring the integrity of the OCP and also honoring the integrity of the neighborhood initial input from the neighborhood on the transition committee's recommendation is important. I'm sure council weighs that heavily in mind. The trade-off, of course, of looking at developments like this is more taxes collected by the town and the revenue. Understandably, there's lots of emotion from the neighbors here, witnessed by those that showed up today, and I understand that totally. If the engineer, however, the engineers and rep that spoke tonight, what he states is accurate, that they were just recently told that the staff was going to recommend against the proposal, I wonder if a public hearing might be in order to give this full view. I like honoring the integrity of the OCP and Neighborhood Transition Committee's recommendation, but if indeed they were just notified that they'd be against it when this process started quite a long time ago.
I'll get our staff to address that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just, planning staff handed me a copy of an email dated June 3rd of last year that outlines the concerns that you have in front of you quite in depth in the staff report that indicated that staff support would not be provided for this application due to the lot size averaging process that we went through and everything else that happened. So, although the delegation indicated he was surprised, which he may not be aware of this email, the applicant certainly was well over a year ago.
That information I needed to hear, and that certainly changes the public.
Councilor.
Thank you. I won't repeat everything that has been spoken so far, i.e. the history of this application, but I will just add my comments. I felt that having spent a great deal of time consulting and reading and researching this, because it is such an important issue, that the final solution, which was the averaging, seemed to be a good solution for everybody. And so my comment simply is, people invested substantial dollars in these beautiful lots with the understanding that they would be protected by the zoning in place. The recommendations of the Transition Committee and also the town's OCP enforced that understanding. And while I understand Ann and Jim's decision to make this application, I cannot support it.
Side of the table, have any comments?
That's what it said.
Okay.
And that's what it said.
There's a few things I just wanted to point out, I guess. There's a few of us who were there 10 years ago when the boundary extension was approved. And, you know, this was a property that was brought in mainly to facilitate subdivision. Of course, it went through the subdivision process. The Transition Committee didn't specifically deal with this property, but it, obviously the report did have significant implications for it. And I'm just referring to the comment on page 60, I guess it is, that says that the planning report, July 16, 2008, which was the original subdivision application, noted that while the concept of averaging the parcel size of the parent parcel was not discussed with the Transition Committee, the proposal benefits both the developer and the wider community, and goes on and on. So, and the lot averaging thing is always going to be a bit of a moving target. And I was intrigued to see the engineer's map showing lots in that area and some measurement of those lots that showed that quite a few of them were of the same size or in fact even smaller than what was being proposed here. And I guess my sense of it is that 10 years is a long time in terms of development of properties. 5 years since the OCP was passed, and I'm not saying necessarily that I would support this application, but I guess I do find it a little bit unusual that we wouldn't at least put it to public hearing. Now, acknowledging that this room is full of people which would be apparently opposed to it, we have no idea what their particular wishes are unless and until we have a public hearing where we hear from people, perhaps on both sides of this particular application. So, it is would be an unusual step, but I do understand and respect the staff report in that regard. But if I had my druthers on this, I would prefer that at least go to a public in terms of process and hearing from all concerned. We obviously could have heard numerous delegations on this tonight, but I do thank both the proponent and the opponent for confining their submissions to one each. So with that, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the recommendation to deny? Any opposed? And the motion to deny is passed.
fine.
All right, so I believe we can move on to the next item under new business, and that is the OCP amendment development permit area number 12 amendments regarding Gary Oak habitat. And that is at page 291.
I'll move first and second reading.
Uh,
Oh, no,
not quite there yet.
sorry.
The first one would be in accordance with section 475 Local Government Act. Notice of that amendment be posted on the bulletin board website, and that copy of the report, also this report be put on there until replaced by a notice of public hearing.
I'll move that.
Yes. Thank you. Those in favor? Motion carried. Comox OCP amendment bylaw be given first reading.
Sure, I'll move that.
Second?
Attachment 3. Question?
Question for the planner. What impact is this, I understand one of these lots is vacant. What would the impact be on this lot should someone, obviously is going to want to build on it someday? So what kind of impacts have we got on that with this?
They would have to apply for a development permit. They'd have to get a biologist, registered professional biologist, to would do an impact assessment to provide measures to ensure no overall degradation of Gary Oak ecosystem occurs, and also specify any necessary measures to protect and, where possible, restore existing Gary Oak ecosystem. So it's an impact assessment, impact and mitigation assessment.
Okay, well, on page 293, if we look under OCP sustainability implications, the proposal ensures protection of Gary Oak species on this property, preventing the removal of all Gary Oak trees on this property. So if there's a Gary Oak somewhere within the building envelope, have we sterilized this lot, or what have we done here?
No, you're referring to OCP.
That's what it says in the OCP sustainability recommendations on page 293.
Yes. And so those are the recommendations, and then that's implemented through the development permit area. And the development permit area itself does contain the word should in terms of measures to ensure no overall degradation of Gary Oak ecosystem occurs should include, and that goes on. And in the guidelines itself, it says the use of the term should is that compliance to the guidelines will be required as a condition of issuance of the development permit unless there are exceptional reasons why the guideline should not be applied to its fullest extent. Sterilization of the property, to me, would constitute that. If that was delegated to staff, to the municipal planner to issue a permit, or to deny a permit, on the grounds that a Gary Oak tree would be removed to allow the development of the house, two things would occur. One is myself in that position, I would see that as something that was not, as an exceptional circumstance. I never got any direction, in my view, during the OCP from council that they wish to sterilize any land through the development permit area. And also, if, say, that there is a different personnel that has a different opinion, any such decision by staff can be appealed automatically to council, and then the applicant can make that discussion and have that debated at council level.
Okay, so by the sounds of what you said, then it may become more difficult to build on that lot, but you wouldn't make it impossible.
Correct.
How did you know I was going to ask that question, by the way?
Thank you for the
It's not the amazing comments, it's the amazing present.
Yeah, that's right.
Questions? Further, yes.
I have a question that's probably beyond the scope of this amendment, but are we doing anything in our parks and public spaces to encourage new Gary Oak ecosystems?
I don't know, but that would be beyond the scope of this.
All right.
It's a good try, though.
Perhaps at committee of the whole, or even through staff, you can
Question.
All right, so did we move first reading?
We moved it, but we didn't.
And pass it. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And having considered the impact on the current financial plan and the solid waste management plan, Comox official community plan, amendment bylaw 1844 be given second reading.
Move.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. And a public hearing be scheduled for that bylaw to be located here.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. Will it also be July 20th? Thereabouts? Sorry, July 20th?
What was the date?
July 20th, that's our council meeting in July.
I will do it.
As long as we have a quorum, we're good. Next item is in relation to the Town of Comox benefit agreement, exempt employees, page 301, and it's from the CAO,
Move the recommendation.
which is that the CAO is authorized to waive the waiting period for permanent full-time exempt employees to enroll in the pension.
I'll second that.
Any questions?
We have a question.
Go ahead.
Does this impact, say, a new person to come in, like, would it affect their probationary period, or this is just for the pension?
It's just for the pension, and it would be done on a case-by-case basis. And a new employee with no service in the pension plan prior would not be eligible as well. They would stick with the full thing.
Stick to the formula.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Application for funding under the Canada 150 Community Infrastructure Program. Council is being asked to authorize staff to submit an application for funding under that program for the Comox Water Park project.
Second.
Discussion. I did see somewhere today that, notwithstanding an earlier indication that June 22nd was the deadline, it looked like it was July 8th now. That's much sooner.
Yes.
That's better news.
But obviously you would proceed, assuming this motion is passed, to submit.
We're still working towards a June 22nd deadline. We've received some initial estimates for splash park costing. We're also looking at how much room we have for including the new playground structure as well, which the one we have in Marina Park right now is getting tired and is due for replacement. So we're looking at quite an extensive application for, I think, a project that could be quite shiny and splashy. Exactly.
Councilor McKinnon, please.
Yes, so CAO, if you can remind us of a figure, a percentage that I heard when we had this discussion a while ago about the water usage percentage used by the city of Courtney's water park. I bring that up because it was quite minimal, if I remember, and there's some questions now that are coming up about water usage there, and I would like to be able to quote a percentage. Their percentage of water use for the water park was almost insignificant.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember what that figure is, but the water conservation aspect of what we're looking at for the splash park is a primary driver behind this. And the way that we're looking at achieving it is through the fixtures themselves. And so that you may not, part of what the design includes is with the fixtures, is that you don't always see them. In the new design, you don't see all fixtures on at the same time. There's a feature element that is operative at a certain time, and the kids would gravitate to that one. And once that one stops working and another one turns on, they move. So it kind of forces them around the area, and in turn keeps the water use to a minimal level.
Some of them are activated by push buttons.
Most of them.
But I'll get you that number. I just, sorry, I apologize, I don't have it off the
The
top.
volume percentage is really so low that I think the public would be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And
And I think you would find that if you got the Campbell River number, because theirs is brand new, Courtney's is quite a bit older than the Campbell River one. I think you'd find the numbers would be even lower there than what you see for.
That is a good idea, as we saw it with the new pictures.
Councilor Price?
Yeah, and you may find too that people, instead of using their backyard, Canadian Russian advertise, store water feature will come down here, so there may be trade-offs in that. But I do think this is a really exciting project, and I loved reading the letters that you got back from, was it the grade 3?
Yeah, grade 2, 3s.
Grade 2, 3, and the water park featured in that, and I think it's going to be a big hit, so.
And for the seniors, we're excited about that too.
Seniors are only allowed there for 6 to 6
I had a tentative design sent to me by a grade 4 student the other day, so got it all planned out for us. We're good to go.
All right, so motion then, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, CEO.
Thank you.
Here you go. Oh, just for that. Yes.
Yeah, you got to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Correspondence, letter from the BIA, self-explanatory.
Move the sheet.
Thank you.
Second?
I'll just mention that both Councilor McKinnon and I were at the BIA meeting this Monday, and of course, prior to that, I talked to Mr. Luca as well as Ms. Wood about this, and assured them that whatever we do with this project, as it comes back to council next week, we will keep them apprised. And we understand their very serious interest in this project, especially the potential for disruption. So it so happens that Ms. Wood is also in charge of Navajo. So that will help quite a bit, but again, that message was conveyed by both of us at that meeting. All those in favor? Motion's carried. We are at reports from members of council. So I will start. Lieutenant FCM, along with 2 other members of council, highlights were a study tour on alternate modes of transportation, seeing how they progressed with some of their sidewalk and bike lane improvements. City of Winnipeg is flat, as you may imagine, but they do have a pretty good ride share for cycling throughout the year, and that was confirmed by talking with other people since then. There were, of course, keynote speakers there, including the Prime Minister, and lots of interesting discussion around the infrastructure funding that's coming down the pipe, for the pipes. So I thought it was a worthwhile conference, and a lot of information was shared. I'll let the other 2 councillors who went talk about their experiences, of course. The grade 2, 3 class was here from Colorado Road, and they were very engaged and had lots of good questions. And they sat around here and had a lot of fun and learned about local government. And we did a top 10 list of services for the town, and they pretty much got them all. I did have to let the planner know, unfortunately, that his department got number 10. So, as opposed to others in other age groups who think planning is number 1, the kids are just more worried about water parks and things like that. And the fire department got a good rating too. So.
Water thing here.
Participated along with a couple members of council in a salmon farm tour prior to the Seafood Expo. We went up to see a farm operated by Great Seafood. That was an excellent experience. As you know, the Shellfish and Seafood Festival is on as of last week, and I participated in the Expo kickoff dinner as well as a roundtable meeting with Minister of Agriculture Norm Letnick. A very interesting meeting. Mayor Hank Food from Port Hardy and I were there, but also representatives from all the various shellfish and seafood associations, from the salmon farmers to the underwater harvesters on down. So it was a really good discussion. And there was talk about getting together and hosting an event similar to what the cattle industry does down in Victoria. We call it BC Beef Day, and they're thinking that they might do something like a BC Salmon Day down there in Victoria to promote the industry. Harbour Authority hosted a tour, and Councillor Swift and I were there to greet some of the international buying groups and media. And it was scrubbed by international media from China, India, Korea, about all sorts of questions to do with what's going down at the harbor here and why that is important to the town of Comox and Valley. I also learned apparently that a media member from India thought that our location here in the valley was a great location for a Bollywood film. So I don't know when auditions are coming, but I'll let you know. You never know what could happen. Keynote speaker Barton Seaver talked about seafood sustainability, and that was a well-attended and good piece of information to have. Very topical around climate change. There's also a signing ceremony at the conclusion of the expo between a company called G-Fresh, which is an online-based company that looks after distribution of seafood and shellfish from around the world. It was good to have that happen. Also at the Fresh Fest the following evening, well attended as well. By both of the dinners had about 200 people each. Everyone really enjoyed those at the Old House outside. As mentioned, the Comox BIA meeting was on Monday, attended that. And along with Councillor Ken Grant, we attended the Developers Association AGM, at least I did there for a portion of it. And today I was invited to speak at the Chamber of Commerce Board, monthly board meeting, and provided them with an update on the projects that are underway as early as tomorrow for things like Point Homes project as well as Rod Road and whatever we can achieve with the Marina Park project. So their interest in that, and of course, the topic of governance. So more to follow on that as time goes on. So leave it at that. Councillor Margaret.
Thank you. Gee, I think I'll just say, well done, Mayor.
It's been a busy time.
It has. My time was hopefully well spent, but certainly not as busy as yours. I did attend the Sandwich Farm tour, which, as you say, was just excellent. Gained a lot from that. I have been spending my time this last couple of weeks promoting the festival and the town of Comox. Hopefully they will bear fruit. Thank you. That's me this week.
Sounds like the end of the week.
Yes, while the mayor was away in Winnipeg, some of us picked up the slack here in Comox. I attended a Comox Valley Homeless Coalition meeting, Earthquake Preparation Day Shape Zone Simulator at Sims Park, along with a couple other councillors. Very good presentation and well attended down there. I attended the Highland Secondary graduation ceremonies on behalf of the mayor, a signature event each year down at showcasing the Filbert Park. And I might add that they had a record number of First Nations graduates this year at Highland Secondary, and very proud of that. I attended a Comox Valley Social Planning Committee meeting, their 20th anniversary, their AGM. I attended a School District 71 retirement function last week, and there were some longtime Comox teachers who retired, and very nice to give them a good send-off. Comox Valley BIA meeting, Mayor Ives has already alluded to it. And just a couple of quick items. The Comox BIA, amongst many things, publicizes Comox in a variety of publications. They did that. Also, one of the topics of many on the agenda was wayfaring signs. And, this idea is being explored and looked at in Comox, and not that this is the signature idea, but it was an idea they're looking at to expand on and make it exciting for Comox. Attended today the Glacier View alternate high school graduation ceremonies with some Comox students there and award winners. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge Highland Secondary student Elizabeth Gummer won the provincial BC Senior Girls 400-meter title. And we don't get many provincial champions here from our community at the BC Track and Field Championships. Folks, it's the Comox water. They're saying that. Thank you. That's my report.
Great, thank you, Councillor Price.
Yes, so I also went to the earthquake simulator where you sit on a couch and you're taken as if you're in a fairground roundabout, and yeah. Don't want to be there.
Didn't like it.
Didn't like it. I went to the accessibility event for accessibility awareness where we now, and I'd like to acknowledge Al Fraser, who's worked with a member of the community. We do now have a lift that you can use. You put the Wolfinger and he'll connect you to it, and you can actually go from your wheelchair into a boat. I, along with Councillor Grant, who was busier than she thought, had coffee with Karen Kratz and talk about wheelchair accessibility, and she was encouraging us to spend a day in a wheelchair, which we both went, we wouldn't have the arm strength, an hour was certainly enough. And we also, the three women councillors did have a wonderful lunch with Lo, and went to see her very beautiful garden, which is exceeded any thought I had. I met with Cumberland Bird, and she told me about the social procurement policy and how it's working in Cumberland. And I also yesterday, along with Councillor Grant, attended the RT Water Committee and Sport and the Committee as a whole. And I'm going to report on the Committee as a whole, and Councillor Grant will do the other two. So, yeah, we had a very long presentation on a Comox Valley Airport quality update, and it's a lot of interest. Wood smoke is a source. They are going to be monitoring in Cumberland this winter and also having some more mobile sampling. The solid fuel burning regulations have just been completed by the province, and it really did bring out the difference between an old wood stove and a new one. That with an old wood stove you're looking at 65 to 70 grams per hour of the particulate matter compared to 4.5 grams or even down to 2 for the new stove. So it was very much stressed that it's much more about having people upgrade their stoves and also burning smart, and the regulations speak to that too, of burning seasoned wood and no garbage, and educating people how properly, because even if you've got a brand new wood stove and you use it improperly, you can still cause pollution. So basically the old regs, 1994, prior to that, they call them the old wood stoves. So anything after 1995 is considered to be a much, 1995 on is considered to be a lot more air friendly. So, but wood smoke sources are significant, but they can be managed, and it's all about managing wood smoke. And that was it on the air quality. But I know we'll hear more, and our medical officer of health is one of the presenters, and it's one of the things that she's really taken on at the moment, so we will be hearing more from her. On transit, we are, and this is Committee of the Whole, so it still has to go to the board, but we're proposing to exchange 2 medium-duty buses for light-duty buses, which will save over 60,000 a year, and also save people hate to see buses that are half empty, so these will go on routes that have lower usage. They are not able to carry bikes at night, they're not as, because of the headlights, so that's a valid reason. So they're going to be very sensitive about what routes we go on. We're also proposing to expand the handed-out hours to include 900 more hours for the rural areas. The rural areas pay in, but they get very little handed-out service. We did look to approve a new route for the therapeutic riding barn, which is well long overdue. And also the Go Smart Select Committee the cycling task force would be looking to evolve into a more integrated transportation committee, and so this is proposed to be a select committee under the regional district. Now it wasn't, certainly wasn't unanimously supported, so maybe there's some more tweaking that needs to be done, but if it does go ahead, There will be 5 representatives from the public, and then Courtney Comox, Cumberland School District, and MTI, and are the electoral area director. So if it does go through at the board, we will be asked to put forward a name for that. And that is my report. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Councillor Swift?
Okay, well, I went to the Great Shakeout, and although the ride was rather fun, when you translate it into your own environment with things flying around, it would be really terrifying. So let's hope we don't have one. I went on the fish farm tour, and it was really interesting. I would really recommend it if you've never been on one. It did give you an opportunity to ask the questions and the hard questions if you wanted them, and so that was great. I attended the opening ceremony and dinner for the Seafood Festival. A worthwhile event, and exciting to see buyers from all over the place. India, China, Germany, Taiwan. It was, and the buzz in the area was just incredible as everybody was networking. And I attended the tour of the commercial docks where we talked with various fishers and climbed aboard a halibut vessel for an explanation of how the fishery operates. And I would have to say that the people from other parts of the world were very impressed with how regulated our industry is. And I think it's a wonderful and tangible example of the hard work that is going on in the economic development people. You know, we often wonder what they're doing, and here is a really good example of bringing all these people to town to network and see our area. And I did have many people just talk about what a beautiful setting it was and how they want to come back. So there we go. I attended a Mac Lang advisory group meeting where we finalized the report that will be coming to our table for further discussion in the near future. So we'll see where that one goes. And I took advantage of 2 tours offered by the Salish Sea Company, one for the oyster and clam production, and then one today for the salmon processing. And it's amazing to think of so much of our local product heading out to various parts of the world. So really exciting, and I intend to go to a few more things before this festival is done. And that's my report.
So you weren't just doing it for the halibut?
No, I wasn't.
See what good fishing.
Councillor, top that one.
I'm trying to think of
I'll
a song.
slam on that.
I didn't get to go on that, so you were a little shellfish. So, along
We're
with...
here all week, right?
Pardon me?
You're here all week?
Along with Mayor Rise and Councillor Kangrant, I too attended the FCM in Winnipeg. Listened in on many of the keynote speakers, talked to some people. The infrastructure part of the budget was interesting. The big thing that I took away from was this tour that I went on in the downtown core off of Broadway Street, where youth are brought in and they use music and so on to keep them out of trouble on the streets, away from gangs, and they have them pack their own lunch. They're delivered to the schools the next day, and it is just an amazing facility that's homegrown to this one neighborhood, and I was really impressed with that. I attended last night the Highland Bursary and Scholarship Award tea, and the town of Comox identified Zachary Meadus as a recipient of this year's Mac Lang Bursary Award worth $500, and he was very happy to receive that. He's going on to a biology program at North Island College. And I had a Nautical Days committee meeting. Things are going well there. As you indicated, they have expressed their concerns about the infrastructure changes down there, but we're working on that. And in Winnipeg also, meeting with the marina architect who's going to be working on this, and it was good to see him give us an overview of what they did there from literally scratch to an amazing facility there. So I think he's our guy there that's going to change the park into a great go-to place. And that is it for me.
Councilor King.
My turn. Well, I also attended FCM, and I saw Diane Watts, who was a critic for funding and grants. So she's sort of awaiting, lots of money being promised, still waiting to see some of it. So she's the critic, that's what she's supposed to say. I also toured the Forks with Steve Kohlmeyer, who's our architect. Winnipeg is an interesting city in that it's a lot of office buildings, no shopping hardly at all downtown, not very many coffee or lunch places, so the Forks becomes the place that everybody goes to. And they have over 8 million people a year go down to the Forks and check it out. So it was really interesting to see the tour of what they've done there through the architect's eye that did it. And it certainly added a lot of comfort to me for what we're doing down here, because if it's even close to what they've got going on down there, then we'll be in good hands.
And one thing, just sorry to add, they get more visitors in the winter than in the summer.
Yeah.
At the Fort.
So it's an interesting thing. And I also did a tour of downtown vitalization, and in Winnipeg they have a corporation with about $10 million in it, and they help fund projects for developers. They'll lend the money, they'll do land assemblies, they're very involved in trying to develop their downtown core, and they actually fund it quite directly, which I found pretty interesting. They started that about 20 years ago, I think, and they had 10 million, they're down to 5, so they're not making money on this, but they're working away and trying to develop their downtown, and yet it's really a weird place to walk around when you can't get it. There's no coffee shops, no to stop in for, it's just kind of weird that way. I found it, maybe it's just me, I don't know. I also attended the Regional District Water Committee meeting, where we heard a presentation on our new direct filtration plant for the water, which would also include a lake intake. The bill is looking at about $104 million, so that's significantly more than what we had hoped it would be, but that seems to be where it's coming out. There's a group called FLINRO, and don't even ask me what they do, but they are the regulatory body which would deal with licensing. They feel that we should get started on this plant and worry about the licensing, and if we need increased quantity, we could deal with that as we go or later. I'm not so sure that that's a good idea, because I think we need to know what we're building and the capacity we're trying to build for before we just go, so more on that later. We also saw a video of Perseverance Creek up in the hills, and the undermining that's continuing to go on, and the sloughing or the potential sloughing of the banks and more clay coming into Perseverance Creek. So a letter was sent to Cumberland asking them what they're going to do with regards to the erosion of the bank, and giving them 2 weeks to come back and tell us what their plans are up there. So there's that erosion and that clay can have some serious effects on any new treatment plant that we would put in. So I think it's a pretty critical issue that we get some confirmation from them as to if or what they're going to do. Also attended the Sports Commission, where we released the concession and the Physio Plus, and we also are working on a new lease for the Curling Club. I also attended the Seafood Festival lunch, and some of the speakers that were there, and the trade show at the Westerly and the Developers Association last night, and saw Stu Young from Langford, the famous mayor from Langford was there. He didn't disappoint. They've got quite a community and quite a thing going there. I would encourage you all to talk to him at some time, just to see there's a different way of things being done, and they're certainly doing it. It's very aggressive, so I'm not saying it's all right, but it's pretty interesting to see the different way that it works. So that's my report.
Yeah, it was just been nice on Saturday, and actually it is shaping into a very nice town. So
It used to be known as Dog Patch.
It was. I remember.
Come a long way.
Yeah, you wouldn't take your dog there for some reason.
So FLINRO is Forest Lands and Natural Resource
Yeah.
Operations. So Steve Thompson's the minister.
That's right.
So they control the license and
That's right.
permits and so on. Yeah.
Couldn't remember the acronym.
Yeah, there's so many of them. All right, that completes our reports from members of council. So coming back to the agenda, any media questions? Question? Sorry? Questions?
And she's here now because there's no coffee shops.
That's right.
We got a lot of stairs now.
We did find a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Questions from the members of the public who are here?
Yes, I'll stand with this. I had put in an application last Wednesday to make a presentation to this council and was denied. And I don't think that was appropriate. An individual, if that was the reason I was turned down, can make representation. It was in a timely fashion. There are no fees, so that wasn't an issue. I really don't understand why it was given. That's not here.
Okay, thank you for your question. I'll try to respond, and CEO can clarify anything if I don't get it all. But essentially, your submission was regarding the Point Homes Restoration Project, which has been tendered, and work is commencing as of tomorrow. So, and I understand that you had raised a number of these issues with staff, and staff had considered many of your submissions. And in consultation with the CEO and myself, we determined that it would not be appropriate for council to hear a delegation on that, given that the work has already been committed and there was no turning back on what was being proposed. And acknowledging that you were given an opportunity to make submissions and certainly heard your concerns at a staff level. And that was communicated to council, and council did not indicate a willingness to hear a delegation, which would require now a majority vote of council. So unless somebody wants to make that motion here tonight, which is still possible, then that would be the explanation. So anything further, CEO?
No, I think that covers the issues.
And certainly if you have a supplemental.
I believe that what I would like to say right now was already in the email, and I'm not sure that all of you received it and or read all the words.
All the submissions that are addressed to council are circulated to members of council. And,
Yes. And I too am fully aware that realistically nobody reads it all, because that's a lot of time dedication. In this case, I've been told that it's en route. I believe this is actually one situation where a public hearing would have been appropriate. Under the guise of road improvement, there was no public hearing required. And this is an awfully large road improvement. We renovate an entire shore. That's well beyond what I would use code for road improvement. As such, those drawings and reports were not made public until May 7th. Again, time. I think I've done quite well to have a presentation ready in that timeline, considering I too have a personal life and I was a week and a half traveling to Ontario. And so I don't know if any of those reasons for denial are valid. And you know what? If it's wrong, it doesn't matter whether it's starting tomorrow or next week. It should be terminated and rethought, possibly commenced in the same vein, but we need a little more thought.
thank you for your questions. Seeing nothing further, I call for a motion to adjourn. Moved. Opposed? All those in favor?